Welcome to the Evolving Mind. This is a program designed for you to incorporate knowledge, wisdom, experience, and understanding in dealing with day-to-day life issues. And today's topic is the importance of communication. We all know how important it is, so I don't need to tell you how important it is. However, the reasons that it is important is the topic of today's conversation, and then hopefully some ways of enhancing on this understanding and being able to create a more beneficial way of dealing with each other and with ourselves in that communication. So let's start with asking, what is communication? Okay. You know, we all use the word very randomly. We communicate with each other, we talk to each other, we converse with each other. However, in the essence of this way of discussion that we have today, communication is based on 6 pillars. And these 6 pillars are, first, how we communicate. That's an internal and external experience of how this is happening. Then it's at what time we're doing this. You know, is this in the middle of something, or is it, you know, after a fact, or is it before something is happening? So the timing of it is very important. Then it's the reason or the intention that we are having this conversation. We need to be clear with ourselves why we're doing this before we just have this communication, regardless if it's via text or email or conversation or a phone call, whatever form of communication that nowadays we're using, and we're just being more creative in the ways that we can communicate with each other. The other thing is that in what context. So how are we framing this communication in a way that is understandable, that is acceptable, that is reciprocating, that we have somebody involved or listening to us. So this is really important, the context of how we are doing this communication. The tonality is another factor. With what tone we are saying this, you know. Am I being harsh? Am I being demeaning? Am I being ridiculously making fun of someone, or critical, or however peaceful, or a managing position that we may have? And the other thing is that the situation. What is the situation right now? So we got to understand, besides that, where it is, what is the situation, because the locality is important where we're doing this conversation. If it's in our house, if it's in our car, it's in presence of somebody else. Also, what is this situation, because each situation is different and we need to adjust the communication according to the situation and what is happening. So these are the basis of communication. When we're communicating, there is a certain understanding internally. What am I feeling? What am I going through? What's the process? What's happening to me? And also what is happening in the space around me, and how we can make this give and take dialogue between ourselves and ourselves first, and then myself and other second. So first, I need to process what's going on. All of those 6 issues has to be understood by me, and then I'm going to be engaging with somebody in that communication, hopefully having them listen, pay attention, focus, or else, maybe just venting to them, and they want to hear me. So many different details are involved in communication. However, unfortunately for us, communication has always been the way that we've been raised in different families, in different cultures, with different diversities, with different parental qualifications of how they have dealt with us, our friends, our school, our teachers, our media, the books we read. So many different elements have influenced us in this way of communication. However, this is not the effective communication that we're discussing today. Effective communication is very purposeful, and it has a certain importance that doesn't matter if it's in your relationship, or it's at work, or if it's with anyone. This is important. And I want to go over the importance of this effective communication and why you want to pay attention more to this type of communication, which we call effective communication. It's not any communication. In my work as a couples therapist, I work with couples on their communication more than anything else, because once I work with each one of them individually, I teach them how to have that internal dialogue with themselves, how they can see themselves, understand themselves, consider all of the factors that are happening, and then how once they have this internal understanding and learning the steps of effective communication, then they can just have the communication properly with least amount of breakups, because the breaking ups are the problem in a relationship or at work when we are not connecting, that when there are misunderstandings, when things are getting lost in translation, we are having problems in effectively going forward with each other and enjoying each other's companionship, cooperation, and goodwill. Okay, so let's go through the 7 important factors of effective communication. Number 1, when we are communicating effectively, we are building trust. Okay, so trust building is the foundation of effective communication, because when I'm consistent in my way of messaging, connecting, delivering, just being in touch with someone, then they can see my ups and downs, and eventually once we have built a relationship based upon the way that we have been doing this effectively, there is a trust being built that the other person feels safe, feels comfortable, feels understood to be in this relationship with us and have this type of communication further. Okay, so once we have built this trust, then the step 2 of importance is resolving conflict. That makes it much easier to resolve conflicts. Let's say at work, if we are not trusting the person that sits next to us, or a supervisor, or somebody even that we're supervising, so the communication is going to be based upon doubts, based upon accusations, based upon insecurities, and it's not going to be well. However, once we have an effective way of communication, we can get to the bottom of the issues and cooperatively resolve these issues and conflicts. In relationship is the same way. When two people are living with each other and they have conflicts, if they can speak with each other in a way that it's not insulting, is not demeaning, is not putting somebody down or losing themselves, and coming from a place of lack of confidence, is going to be a problem. As we have discussed in the past, and we may touch upon today also, the characters of passive aggressive or passive aggressive don't have that capability of problem solving effectively. Only an assertive person is somebody who can do that, and this is building an assertive, confident person that can have this kind of conflict resolution at the core of their communication. Third is creating more ease and being clear with our direction. So clarity and being able to just relay a message effectively is really important, because now the other person, when they understand us, the other people who understand us, they can perform better, because now they have clear understanding and direction about what's happening. So when we are doing that, then we are helping other people to do better, and that is very important to us. So that ease and comfort that comes with effective communication, it's a huge factor in what we are doing in this type of communication. Number 4 is improving relationships because of less misunderstanding. So imagine if myself and my colleague, myself and my spouse, we are being effectively communicating, then definitely our relationship is getting better, because there are less chances of misunderstanding each other, miscommunicating with each other, and having confusing statements or messages. A lot of times I'm witnessing that people are not meaning anything but what they're saying. However, the way that they're saying it it's very off-putting and insulting and disconnecting. So these disconnections are not aware, and they happen a lot without our understanding. As I said, our earlier ways of communication, it's constantly being looped back into our current situation, and when this is happening, it's very difficult to be, above and beyond these old programs that is running in your head. So this awareness of effective communication helps you to be more clear about the way that you're conducting yourself in this relationship, and then that creates a better situation for the relationship to go forward. So if it's a colleague or it's your spouse, again, this is going to build a better relationship between you and others. Number 5, increasing interest in collaboration and creativity. So what does that mean? So when we are able to have this type of effective communication, because of the clarity, because of the level of ease, because of everything that we discussed, naturally we will have more chances, more possibilities, more considerations for being creative and go forward and be more of a problem solver, more of a creator of our own outcome and our own future. Many times we're just stuck within ourselves with the situations, and because of the lack of communication, this is not getting better or easier, and consistently it's going to be a matter of deliberation. Is this okay? It's not okay. Self-doubt comes. So that interest in collaboration is going to be there when we are more clearly corresponding to situations and others, and that will involve more people to be on our side. Together we can go forward even easier. Number 6, which is again an addition to everything that we have said, it's improving productivity. What are we living for? Our life purpose is to be productive. If any of us is useless, if any of us is not capable of performing, daily duties and responsibilities, what would happen? We become depressed, we become anxious, we become obsolete and unhappy and helpless and hopeless. All of these negative feelings are coming to us, and then we are not going to be able to live a happy life. So then when we're productive, everything starts to be more positive. When we are capable of creativity and producing and putting things together and connecting, that feels good. So that will increase not only productivity for us, for our household, for our team, for whoever that we're involved with. So you see how important it becomes. And the last one, and not the least important, promoting and nurturing positive work experience. So although we're talking about work, but then life is a kind of work. As I said, we are all working to be creative, we're all working to be productive, but promoting this is another level of this. So if we are continuously doing this, so that continuity is really important. Consistency was number 1, and continuity is number 7. So you see, we start from consistency and we go to continuity. We need to be stable, we need to be grounded, we need to be in a place that we are assertive, and we understand our boundaries, we understand other people's boundaries, and then from there we do all of this effective communication through clarification and through acknowledgement, which are, I'm designing a course which is going to be very soon available, and hopefully you can have this whole communication skill at your service and use it very effectively. Meanwhile, please understand how important it is that we have this capability and understanding about the effective communication. So consistency and continuity. When we continue, that means that we can renew again. Those of you who've been familiar with the wheel of well-being, the wheel is just an idea of, continuity, because, a wheel is turning, and if it's not stuck, if there's not hindrances or obstacles on the way of a wheel, the wheel can just go forward and move on. So first, it needs to be stable, not broken, not out of service, and then it needs to be able to kept in a way that continuously it's going forward. I hope that's clear and you understand that concept of the wheel, because everything that I have been able to put together in this context will be very easily understood if we understand that there is a wheel inside of us, and we are each like a wheel going forward in life, cutting through life. And if we're healthy, if we're happy, if we're successful, this wheel is like a blade. It can just cut through any difficulty and go forward. However, if it's wobbly and if it's not straight and if it's not in balance, it's going to be a problem. Communication is a way that we can loop back from ourselves to others and then understand how this type of communication is going to help us to maintain this balance, to understand that we are at the center of this wheel, at the hub of it, and from that hub we are attending to every aspect of our life, and communication is the way that we can make this work even better and more productive. In my book, Balancing the Wheel, there is a whole chapter about communication, especially effective communication and all of the skills, which I hope if you get a chance, you can go at least briefly through it and look at it and see how you can experience some of these steps for effective communication. If you have today, I will go forward a little bit and talk about some of these steps with you. So, in order to have effective communication, one of the first things that is required to have is empathy. Empathy is that feeling of being here without judgment, without misconception, without any kind of a view that looks at this other person in a demeaning or disagreeing way. So let's give that chance by being empathic. That means that we're open to the feelings of others, we're not judging them, and we're not going to have our own mind made before we have the communication. When we come from that place of empathy and no judgment, then we want to clarify what's going on, and clarification starts with wondering. I'm wondering what's happening. Be curious, just try to understand. Put all of your glasses, lenses away and look at this situation without any prior connotation or understanding, and just be curious to understand. Again, as a therapist, when I see with the client, I cannot have any perceptions of where they are, what they do, how they are, just because it's in my mind. I need to let them be and just explain themselves, and I'm just curious to understand them better, and I let them just explain themselves and express themselves. And we all need to do the same thing without being a therapist. We all need to be open to other people's comments, concerns, and just ask, what is it like for you? How does this come about? I'm curious, I'm wondering how this is working. And that's a great beginning to this effective communication. The other part that is really important and I want you to pay attention to is, often enough we just miss an opportunity to put the other person at ease. As I said, I'm going to mention a little bit about the characteristics, the 4 general characteristics that we have adapted somehow beyond our genetic predispositions, are passive aggressive, and assertive. So regretfully, the degree of security that we are required to have for being assertive is not enough that we can kind of be from the get-go assertive. So assertivity, most of the time, for a good majority of us, I would say for 85% of us, it's a requirement to be gained, because from the get-go we have been raised either passive aggressive or passive aggressive. A passive person is a person who is defending themselves by staying away, avoiding situations, not getting involved, not confronting, just kind of staying put and disconnected. which is, you can see how that affects your communication. If you're not present, if you're not in the forefront, then you cannot be communicating effectively. If you're aggressive, means that I'm like a bulldozer. I have no time to hear you, to be concerned about your situation, to pay attention to you. So I just do my own business, I run through it, and I just do whatever is needed to do in my ideas, in my mind, and aggressively going for whatever that I believe. Okay, and we've seen a lot of those people around us. So, and that's not going to leave much place for communication, because you don't have much power in front of somebody like that, and there is no way that any communication can happen. And then we have the passive aggressive, which is most common. It is confusing communication. These are people who say, yes, you're right, I agree with you, but then really they don't agree, and they have not been convinced, and they're doing other things that then it feels like they're betraying you, or they're not respecting you, or they're not honest with you, or you do this to other people. So that passive aggressive way of being creates a lot of problems in our communication, and unfortunately a good 60-65% of us carry ourselves in that manner of passive aggressive. Now, the remaining choice, which is assertive, requires us to know our boundaries, to know where we are, what we are about, and then we respect the other person's boundaries, and from there we can have a communication that is effective, right? So when we want to have an effective communication, then the first step of it becomes acknowledgement. That means that even though the other person is aggressive or passive aggressive, my communication with this person would be acknowledging them wherever they are. Why do I do that? Because when I can do that, the other person is not feeling attacked, doesn't feel that they need to hide, they don't feel that they need to play a trick with me, because they feel that I'm authentically paying attention to them and I'm there for them. And this authentic way of being cannot be faked. You cannot just say, I agree with you, if you don't agree. I want you to understand, in every statement that somebody is giving you, there is a part of it that it's truth. Now, if it's not true for you, it is true for them. So if somebody is telling you that I feel horrible about the politics that is happening in our country, so you're not going to start with your position in the politics in your country. You're going to start with, I understand politics are really difficult to be comprehended. Okay, so this doesn't defy them, doesn't denounce them, doesn't make you say something that you don't believe in. It just let them know that you're here to just have a conversation and understand their perspective and point of views, and if you have a chance to say yours. But if you start with an aggressive or passive way of going into this conversation, making them wrong, or just agreeing flat out, and just kind of be on the same bandwagon with them, it is not going to be an effective communication, because the chances of this breaking away up is going to be a lot. I hope that you can see how important these two steps are. I'm going to just give you an introduction into the next part of this for any future conversation about communication, just keeping you interested, because the most important part of this effective communication is our feelings. I always say, and I believe in that truly, that the alphabet for effective communication comes from feelings, right? Because no matter how many of these steps we know and we learn, if we're not in touch with our own feelings, we don't know where we are. We don't know what is important at this situation. We cannot even have empathy for somebody else if we are disconnected from our own feelings. How do I feel empathized? When I feel the pain of the other person in myself, in my feelings. And this is where we need to pay attention. If you want to be good in communication, please understand that you need to be more aware of your feelings. That is not an easy job, because generally speaking, we have not been given that opportunity to be in touch with our feelings. Most of the time we have passed away from our feelings, kind of swallow them in, denounce them, put them back in a treasure box and not open it, or they're infested with a lot of different problems. So feelings are not being appreciated, understood, and adhered to. So let's stop with this conversation here, because the feelings are very important. I want you to sum this up for yourself. Go ahead and understand your feelings. Meanwhile, understand about the clarity of your conversation and the acknowledgement in this part. These are good beginnings for an effective communication, and I'm glad to be with you and talk to you about more things that in the balancing the wheel, especially about communication, we're discussing. And these discussions are very important, not because I say so, because you know that you need to communicate effectively. Thank you so much for your attention today, and I'm looking forward to our next time at Togetherness Media with you on this program.